here at Makunji at the Dashakta Fest with our friends Buck and Irene Dempkin, and Buck's going to tell us something about this beautiful 1930 Nash that he restored from a total disaster. So, tell us a little bit.
It was pretty rough. It came out of a shed in Iowa years ago in the 60s by some friends, and they preserved it until we came along and took it away from them because they weren't doing anything with it. And it was in pretty rough shape. It's a pretty neat car though. It's the first year for the twin ignition 8-cylinder. It's got 16 spark plugs, 2 coils, 2 sets of points.
Wow.
It's 100 horsepower. They advertised this car to go 0 to 100 in 3 blocks. I've never tried it, and I don't plan on it. It took us almost 5 years, almost full time, to put it back together.
You did everything yourselves.
We did everything except some machine work and plating. My wife Irene did did all the upholstery work, all the sewing, learned a lot, and did most of it right the first time. And it turned out pretty nicely.
These have wood for the frame and stuff, right?
I wound up, it was rotten, and I wound up replacing about 40% of the wood from the steel frame going up. And one whole winter I was up to my ankles in wood chips.
Are you typically a woodworker?
I hate woodwork.
Did you learn it as you went?
Yes, we learned a lot about it. Used up a lot of wood. And yeah, the least of the problems were mechanical, but we had to make a lot of parts. A lot of parts are just hubcaps, for instance, were had to be recast and then polished, and I had to reinvent the mechanisms to hold them on the wheels. It was a lot of interesting things I had to make. Little pieces, a lot of the pot metal was gone, so I recreated it out of solid chunks of aluminum, which is very time consuming. The file, and hacksaw, and polishing. And I don't know, ask me some questions.
All right. Can you open the hood?
Sure.
Yeah, tell us a little bit.
I've never seen one of these action something.
This is recognized by the Classic Car Club of America.
It was a big, expensive car, which is kind of surprising for Nash. This car cost over $2,000 when it was new.
That was a big deal.
It was priced up there with the big Studebaker Presidents and the big Buicks, just under Cadillac and Lincoln. A Model A at that time cost about $400. Model A sedan.
What did people earn, about $2 a week or something?
A new house may have cost $1,000. I don't know exactly what was going on back there.
So what's the twin ignition? Is that supposed to give it a stronger spark, or what?
Well, Nash claimed that it gave 15% boost in efficiency, and if you pull one, when it's idling, if you pull one coil wire off, it'll drop about 100 RPMs.
Okay.
So I must do something.
Yeah.
I don't know. It'll run on either coil.
So it's double of everything, right?
Yeah, yeah. This distributor's got 18 wires coming out of each coil, and then 16, we can take a picture of the other side.
Okay.
The generator is driven by the fan belt, and the generator drives the water pump, as many Nashes up through the 50s.
Yes, we know about those.
It's typical. Yep. It's got a Beezer lubrication system. There's a pump pedal inside the car, and there's little copper lines that go to all the spring shackles, about a half a mile's worth, and you're supposed to pump that about once a week, and then the oil goes to all the points on the spring shackles and runs on the ground. It's just very messy.
The EPA wouldn't like that today.
It's got automatic radiator shutters plus a thermostat for cooling, and it's also got a fan that cuts out at about 27 miles an hour.
That's like the modern cars,
like a modern car, yeah. That's one of the reasons why the Classic Car Club likes it. You know, it's got all this fancy stuff. It's got a steering stabilizer, like modern cars. Yeah. Drives like a truck, like most cars back then.
Yeah, it's like a truck, huh?
Would you like to see the inside?
Yep.
I had to learn how to had a wood grain
Yeah.
on this car.
Oh wow.
It took a while, but I finally got the hang of it. Again, one of those things I never want to do again. My wife did all the upholstery work, as I said before. I did the painting.
Can we open that one?
Sure. The back seat's very comfortable.
It's like a living
The
room.
front seat's a little tight for two people.
When we bought the car, the back seat was a bunch of springs and horsehair hanging on it, and about 1,000 little teeny tiny gnats.
Came out and filled the whole shop with bottles.
Oh my
It was
God.
Wow.
And it stank. It took us a couple years just to figure out what color we could paint it. They originally came in this body, it came black with cream pinstripes. But Nash allowed you to option the car with any other color that they had available on any other model. Every model had its own set of colors. So you were allowed to option the car with one of those other model colors. You could order it that way. And this is from, I believe, the six-cylinder, about the six-cylinder series touring. Is where we got these colors, if I recall correctly. I can't really remember, but it's a legitimate color. It may be a little too green on the bottom. We couldn't get real fine colored chips. They're very difficult to find.
Yeah, I would imagine.
But we went through, when they had 18 models that year, and they were all different sets of colors. Every car had several colors on it. The window reveals, fenders were all black, but these combinations were all different. So we had to figure out, 18 models plus 3 or 4 colors per car is a lot of colors. That's what took us 2 years
I can see that.
to come up with a nice combination. What we did, we made a silhouette of the car, bought a box of about 100 colored pencils, and painted in with the pencils all these silhouettes until we finally came up with the combinations we thought were, and then we finally just said no, and this was the last one standing.
Okay.
So it's nice to look at.
Yeah.
Sure is.
Now the transmission on this is just a 3-speed?
Standard 3-speed.
Is it synchronized?
No.
No,
You got a double clutch.
Double clutch. Which
But
I
you
don't
don't have to
understand
shift.
that at all.
Well, once you get a car with a double clutch, you learn.
You learn.
Yeah. But you don't have to shift that much. You can run down to about 10 miles an hour or less in high gear and just accelerate. And that's why they geared them so low, because people didn't like to shift.
Yeah.
First gear is not really necessary a lot of the times.
Just the other side of the engine.
You want to see the other side of the engine?
I love the way you have that thing to hold it up.
I had to invent that.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. Well, Nash wanted you to put it here, which scratched the paint and chewed up.
Okay.
That's what they. Or you flipped it over and broke the engine.
Yeah, okay.
So,
Oh, there's the twin ignition.
yeah, this is the first year for the mechanical fuel pump. Prior to that, they had vacuum tank fuel system.
Okay.
These cars came with a throwaway oil filter, which is another reason why the classic car people like them, because only the big expensive cars had that. There's the double coils.
Yeah, look at all those.
The dual points and the distributor fire simultaneously. They don't fire sequentially, like some of the newer cars with dual ignition.
The shade, those little tassels.
The little shades, yes.
I had that
on the
Buck
windows.
had to carve the wood for the little shade pulls in the back of the car, and that was very tedious. He also had to rebuild the actual
The
rollers that the shades roll up on,
rusty.
because they were rusty and the springs were just about shot, and he had to rebuild all of that and make them go up and down again.
Seat springs too.
Oh, yeah.
Seat springs were rusted and broken, and a lot of that had to be replaced and dealt with. So it took a lot
When
of
you had
time.
nothing to do, right?
4.5 years of blood, sweat, and tears.
There's some problems that you just can't solve normally. The replacement parts are just not available. So you have to make interesting innovations. For instance, this chrome right here, that's on the headlights posts. That's from under sink plumbing pipe. Another couple of things.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
The horn was missing. So I got a part of a horn at a flea market, but it didn't have the top. So the top here is made out of a beef stew can. And of course I had to make the bracket.
Oh my God.
There are wing nuts. If you look in there at the top of the valve cover, you can see those wing nuts. One of them was missing. They're hot metal. And missing one I replaced by carving it out of a solid piece of aluminum. If you can find the original, I'll give you $1.
Oh, wow.
I looked, I can't.
Yeah.
This piece down here at the end of the steering box, this bell crank, which works the throttle, that I had to carve out of a piece of aluminum because it was broken. Just some of the little things.
Yeah.
The hubcaps, as I
Stuff you
mentioned,
have to do.
I had one decent hubcap, and so what we did, we took it to found a fellow who works for the Smithsonian. He does casting, and I got lucky and found him. So I had one good hubcap, and he made a mold and then cast 6 more. Let me take an easy one off to show you. Normally it's just stamped aluminum and polished with the thing painted in. Well, we cast them. And this is what you wind up with a sand casting. So this is what the outer surface looked like.
Oh my
Okay.
God.
If you want to feel that, it's quite heavy.
I'll bet.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So what I had to do is polish this down to get it to look like that, and then reinvent this. All that had to be fabricated. These push buttons
To make a way to keep it on.
And I had to do it 6 times, and it took me a week for each one
Oh
to
my
polish them
gosh.
out. So just little things like that kind of slow down the restoration process.
Also,
There's other things I can't think of.
it's just amazing that
That you have to do.
you could do something like that.
Yep.
I painted the car except for the wheels, which are powder coated, and the stripe. After learning how to do wood grain, I said I'm not going to try striping it. So I paid a street rod guy to stripe the car. They know what they're doing.
Exactly.
They're good at it.
Yes.
Did a beautiful job.
That was worth it.
Absolutely. Yeah, look at that, right?
I had to replace all the glass in the car except for the rear 3 windows. They're original. And 1930 was the first year, I believe, for safety glass with Nash and maybe one other manufacturer.
Before that, it was just like
It
window
was
glass.
just, well, it was just plate glass, which is pretty dangerous.
Yeah.
So that was another reason why the classic car liked it. They decided it's a classic.
It's fantastic.
The other things you have to do, you have to make substitutions. The running board trim isn't available anymore. It was missing and beat up. So this is actually 1929 Packard reproduction. And nobody would know if I didn't tell them. The clock works.
Does it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it took me a while, but I got the clock to work. The cigarette lighter in the vanity set, however, is not original, and I'll probably never find one.
That's pretty cool though.
But it's wired, so if I ever find one, it'll work. Trunk, it was getting close to the point where I think Scranton was coming up, and I wanted to show the car, and I had LeBaron Body make that trunk. I didn't make the trunk. The funny thing about it, though, is when I got it back, it looked like something you'd see on a big Harley motorcycle because all these tacks were chrome. So I had to pull every tack out and paint them black and put them all back. It really looks silly.
Yeah.
So, it took me about 1.5 years, I guess, in the painting alone. Just prepping it and painting. After I got the body work.
You did all the spraying and everything yourself.
Yeah, there was a lot of body work involved. A lot of this, on many of the fenders, it was just gone. It was just mashed, that stamping. There was one inner fender, I think it was this one. They'd run through a field with it and a stump punched up. It took me several iterations of shrinking with my torch, to shrink the metal back down to where it belonged.
I just can't imagine them how it works.
It was a lot of fun.
You're braver than I am.
Well, you learn a lot when you do it,
Yeah.
And one of the ways you do it is you do it wrong first.
Yeah.
I didn't have the bumper ornaments, so I had pictures of what they were supposed to look like. So I had to build them myself. They're supposed to be a piece of stainless with an emblem in it, and of course there's no way to reproduce that. So this is a piece of flat plate, which I curved, heated with my torch, welded a stud on the back, and then the black part here is all filler, Bondo. This is a piece of polished aluminum, This is a piece of fiberglass that's a mold I made from an old hubcap and then painted in, and this is just striped. And I did the back one the same way. That was about 2 weeks building the emblems. They're not correct, but
Close.
they're close
Yeah.
to what's supposed. There's no way to replate Bondo.